In episode 6, you get some backstory on exactly why Catherine wasn't a huge fan of Peter Sutherland in the first place. When she joined Night Action, her partner was killed in a mission. They were going after a guy who had a government informant. That government informant was Peter's dad. So she kind of always harbored some ill will towards Peter's dad and Peter because of the association, because she blamed them for the death of her partner. But it seems like that relationship is starting to get mended. They're slowly starting to build trust. An example of this is the mission that they just completed. Previously, Peter might have misheld this information from them, but as soon as Nora leaves because she's getting phone calls from work wondering where she is, Peter lets Catherine know exactly what happened. The fact that Nora's brother is dead. Rose, who is in the room, mind you, thinks you have to tell her. She deserves to know. But Peter points out to Rose, we don't know how she's going to react to that information, and we still haven't gotten the documents from her. They explain to Rose that for right now, it's the best interest of not only the investigation, but Nora. If they tell Nora, she starts acting weird. She goes back to work, and then what? They start wondering what's going on with her. They might look into it, and that's not good for anybody. They don't want Nora going back to the mission because of that. They want Nora staying there with them, giving them the information, and then Sammy picks her up, and then she gets the bad news. When Nora comes back into the room, though, she lets him know, I have to go back to work because Javed has been questioning my best friend regarding the phone he found with Rose. And they know it's my phone. I can't leave my best friend out to dry like that. Catherine tells her, you really shouldn't take that risk. If they know what you're up to, it's not going to end well. But Nora is steadfast. I'm not leaving my friend out to dry. I'm going back and I'm explaining myself. Realizing that there's no talking Nora out of this, Peter says, okay, well then text us when you're done. We'll pick you up. We'll take you somewhere safe. He then asks for the pictures, but Nora can tell that there's a different mood in the room. And when she looks at Rose, Rose won't even look at her back. So she asks, Rose, let me speak to you privately, knowing that she'll get the truth out of Rose. She doesn't, though. Rose kind of tells her the truth. She says, what they're not telling you is your brother got injured in the process of the extraction. She never tells Nora that her brother is dead. Rose goes on to explain that they're really desperate for the pictures. They didn't know how Nora would react to it. And this does piss off Nora, but she appreciates the quote-unquote honesty from Rose, and she hands over a flash drive with the password of the pictures. Rose then walks back in. She gives Peter the flash drive with the password and says, I'm going back to your apartment because I can't be here with you people. You make me sick. Peter's breach, though, at the embassy doesn't have Javed just looking at Nora or her friend. They also call up Solomon Vega. While Nora was away, Solomon went over to the embassy and they asked him, who gave you this list? And he tells them, we don't give up our sellers, just like we don't give up our buyers. Javed then shows Solomon a picture of Rose and Peter from the party and says, do you recognize them? And even though Solomon clearly does, he lies and he says, no, I don't. It's worth noting that neither Javed or the ambassador really buy the fact that Solomon doesn't know these people. They know he's hiding something. But that's the thing. Solomon Vega and the guy he works for, they have a bunch of buyers and they have a bunch of sellers. This wasn't a one-off deal. Peter and Catherine find this out when they open up the flash drive and they see a bunch of documents in French that have nothing to do with Foxglove. Essentially, these documents are useless to them. Catherine, though, realizes that there is a common link between Foxglove and the information that they got from Nora, and that common link is Solomon and the guy who called Peter. They throw out some hypothetical possibilities on what the common link could be, but they know it runs through Solomon. And with those documents, it's not a total dead end. They do have a lead. The documents were printed on a color printer. Color printers leave a little tiny digital footprint. You got to look really close to it, but you'll find it. It'll basically tell you where the printer was located when the documents were printed. Catherine decides to follow up that lead, and she finds that the documents were printed by a French diplomat, and she follows her. She has a meeting with her, and she hands her all the evidence she found. The fact that she could burn her to her own government and have her thrown in jail for the rest of her life as a traitor, a spy. But she's not willing to do that. In exchange, what she wants is a meeting with the person that the diplomat sold the information to, i.e. Solomon Vega. With no real option here because Catherine is holding all the leverage, the diplomat agrees to set up a meeting, and that meeting is going to go down late that night. As for Nora, she headed back to her embassy to explain herself to Javed, and the good thing for Nora is, because of the fact that Javed has a crush on her, he doesn't really get suspicious with her. He does seem to reprimand her from being upstairs when she shouldn't be, but it seems like he genuinely buys her story. They somehow, though, get into a conversation about the ambassador's daughter and how the ambassador is estranged from her because when the daughter went to study abroad, she met a guy, fell in love with him, and kind of just disowned her country. It really pushed the ambassador's career back by about a decade. It gives Noor, though, an inside look at just how loyal Javed is to his country, because he finds the fact that the ambassador's daughter dare go and fall in love with some foreigner as a deplorable act. Noor leaves the office, she heads back home, and she waits to get picked up later that night to get to safety with her family, or at least she assumes. But she gets a knock at the door, and it's Javed. She gets really nervous because Javed wants her to come with him, and he's not really giving any information. He takes Noor back to the embassy to talk to the ambassador, and once again, Noor is really, really on edge. She's nervous. But the reason why they want to talk to Noor is because they found out what happened to her family. The fact that there was a disturbance, the fact that her mother was taken and is missing, and the fact that her brother died. And they want Noor to ID the body. Now, at this point, Noor thinks that her brother was just injured. She had no idea that he actually died. And she can't believe the fact that she's looking at a picture having to identify the body of her dead brother. Now, back with Peter, he gets the phone call from Catherine about the French diplomat and selling secrets to Solomon. Catherine tells Peter that there's a meeting that night, and they don't really have time to plan anything, so she's going to go to the meeting because she's the only person that Solomon can't ID. What she needs, though, is Peter to keep watch on the building, and ideally they'd need somebody to keep watch for surveillance tape, but Rose at the moment is pretty pissed off at Peter. She's really not willing to help. So Catherine says, well, I'll ask her to help. Before the meeting, Catherine goes to the apartment. She talks to Rose. It's at first a very contentious relationship where Catherine brings up Rose's aunt and uncle. But Catherine just gets real with Rose and says, I'm desperate right now. I need friends because I'm about to walk into a situation that they could possibly kill me. So please, help me out here. And eventually Rose agrees, but she tells her, no more keeping me in the dark. I need to know what foxglove is. Catherine already got clearance to tell Rose, and she debriefs her. They then all head to the meeting, and they're all in place. Peter is on the rooftop. Catherine is heading in with the French diplomat to meet Solomon as an introduction. Rose keeping an eye out via surveillance. When Catherine heads into the building, though, Rose is giving Peter directions on all the people that Solomon has outside working for him and what they're up to. But then she notices something interesting. If she tells Peter to go left, they go left. If she tells Peter to go right, they go right. She realizes that these people can hear them. Rose has to call Peter's private cell phone and let him know, we need to lose these people ASAP, and it takes a lot of work. Eventually, though, they're able to lose the tail, and Peter's able to go into the building. He's going in, though, to a hornet's nest, because this whole meeting was fishy to Solomon and his boss from the jump. First of all, they've never had an asset try to set up a meeting with another potential client. They take their job very seriously, and they vet sources. They also didn't really buy the fact that Catherine was just willing to sell out her country so quickly, even though Catherine was doing a really good acting job. Solomon wanted to get to the bottom of whatever this is, so he knew that he couldn't work with the French diplomat anymore because she probably just sold them out. He shoots her, and he turns the gun on Catherine and says, you're going to tell me everything about Peter Sutherland and Foxglove. But as Catherine is trying to buy herself some time, telling Solomon, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here to do what I told you, sell secrets. Peter's able to get into the room. At that point, it's 2 versus 1. Catherine knocks Solomon on the ground, and then they have him at gunpoint. Now, as for the guy who actually has the information that was given in Bangkok, Thomas, he is in a meeting with his father to find out what the hell was going on with his cousin. Thomas is pissed that he wasn't brought in on the details of what they're doing. And Thomas's father, who is in jail for war crimes via the United Nations, tells him the United Nations bends to the will of America. By having your cousin do what he did, we're going to expose the hypocrisy of the United Nations in America by making an example on American soil. I didn't tell you because it's your name filled on all the accounts with my money. Thomas says, you really think I wouldn't release the funds if you told me the truth? And then Thomas's dad gets really personal. He basically calls Thomas a bitch and says he's not prepared for this kind of work. He's somebody who always wanted all the glory, but none of the blood. Thomas takes this super personally, so Later that night, he calls up his cousin and he asks, how are the preparations going for tomorrow? Thomas's cousin says, yeah, we're on schedule. And then Thomas surprises him by saying, well, save me a seat on the truck. Thomas is about to get the glory, and he's also about to get some bloodshed.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.